Asked my mom for help because I'm pregnant, but she made it all about herself and called me controlling, while my husband was away deployed so he couldn't be at home during the birth. I'm 8 months pregnant and my husband is in the military. I want to preface this whole thing by saying that my husband is currently deployed, and will most likely not be able to come home for the birth. He tried to get leave but his command denied it because apparently an unborn child isn't as important as whatever the hell they're doing over there. Sorry for the rant, but it's just been really hard dealing with this pregnancy basically alone. For context, we've been married for 3 years, together for 6. He's been deployed twice before, but this is our first baby, so the timing really sucks. We live about 800 miles away from both our families because of his base assignment, which makes everything more complicated. Knowing he won't be here, my husband and I had originally planned for my own mother to fly into town and help me before and after giving birth. To be clear, we were going to pay for the plane tickets because she's always complaining about money. The plan was for her to come about a week before my due date and stay for maybe 3 weeks after to help me adjust to motherhood while I'm recovering. For the past few months, I've had this gut feeling that my mom wouldn't be able to help me in the ways I needed to be helped. I don't know how to explain it, just one of those things where you know something isn't right. She's always been kind of self-centered. Like when I graduated college, she spent the whole weekend talking about how proud she was and how she raised such a smart daughter instead of just letting me have my moment. Little things like that have always bothered me, but I usually just let them go because it's easier than confronting her. Another example, when my husband and I got engaged, her first response wasn't "Congratulations, but I hope you're not expecting me to pay for a wedding." We weren't, but that was her immediate concern. So I discussed this with my therapist during one of our sessions, and we decided that I should have a conversation with my mom letting her know what I may need help with. My therapist thought being upfront about expectations would help avoid issues later. Seemed reasonable enough, and honestly, I thought I was being mature by trying to communicate clearly instead of assuming she'd know what I needed. It took me like 2 weeks to finally gather up the courage to talk to my mom. I called her one night after dinner and tried to explain how I expected the stay to go. I told her I'd probably need help with cooking and chores that require bending over in the event that I had to get a C-section. I explained that I might need help with laundry, maybe grocery shopping since I don't know how mobile I'll be after birth. Like, normal stuff any mom would do for their daughter who just pushed a human out of their body, right? I also told her that during this time, her role is to be my mom and not grandma. What I meant by that was that I needed her to help me recover, not just hold the baby all day while I hobble around trying to keep the house from falling apart. I wasn't saying she couldn't bond with the baby at all, just that the primary purpose of her visit was to help me so I could focus on learning to be a mom and recovering physically. She laughed at that comment about being my mom not grandma, which made me uncomfortable. Then she said something like, "Well, I'm coming to see my grandchild, not to be your maid." I tried to explain that's not what I meant, but she kept making these little jokes about how demanding I was being. The whole conversation made me feel uneasy, like she wasn't really listening to what I was saying. That feeling was solidified when my sister called me the next day and said Mom was complaining about how I had a bunch of rules for when she visits. She told my sister that I was being hormonal and that I was going to dictate when she could even hold her own grandchild. Like, asking for help when I'm recovering from childbirth is somehow imposing rules on her? My sister was trying to play both sides, saying you know how mom is but also suggesting I was being a bit too controlling. Which, honestly, made me feel even worse about the whole situation. Then a few days later my mom calls me out of the blue. It was actually the day before my husband was leaving for his deployment, and we were trying to spend as much quality time together as possible before he left. I had a feeling it was because she was upset with what I was asking for, so shortly after I answered the call I said, "My husband is leaving for deployment tomorrow. We are doing XYZ one last time to hint at her that now isn't a good time to discuss whatever she wanted to talk about." I was trying to be nice about it without being too direct. My mom doesn't exactly care about others' needs or emotions though, and she kept pressing. She asked me if I even wanted her to visit, and she also made a snide comment about me wanting a live-in maid. When I tell you I lost my shit, I am not even kidding. I'm not proud of this, but I yelled at her. I said, "I'm sorry you expected to come here and be catered to. Have me cook and clean for you with my vagina bleeding and my nipples chapped and bleeding when my husband is deployed. That you thought you would get to play grandma the entire time." Her response? "Well, you didn't say you wanted that." Like, what the actual fuck? What did she think help meant? That she would come to my house for 3 weeks, hold the baby whenever she wanted, and I would serve her meals and clean up after her while dealing with postpartum recovery? I ended up hanging up on her because I was so angry I was shaking, and I knew nothing productive would come from continuing the conversation. I spent the next couple days trying to calm down and focus on saying goodbye to my husband. It was already emotional enough without this added stress. He was pretty upset about the situation too. He's always gotten along with my mom okay, but he was really bothered by how she was acting when he was about to leave and couldn't be here to support me. After he left, I called my mother-in-law to vent about the situation. I wasn't really calling to ask her to come instead, but during our conversation, she immediately offered. She said she had been worried about me being alone during this time anyway and had been wondering if there was anything she could do to help. I was honestly surprised because while we've always had a good relationship, we're not super close or anything. So, after talking with my husband, I decided to have my mother-in-law come instead. She's actually really nice and immediately offered to come when I called her. My mom doesn't know about this. I lied by omission when I called her the following week to let her know she can visit when my husband returns from deployment instead. She thinks that I am just going to have local friends assist me, which is technically not a lie since I do have some friends nearby who offered to bring meals and stuff. Actually, one of my neighbors who has 3 kids herself has been amazing. She checks on me almost daily and has already made and frozen several meals for after the baby comes. She's been more supportive than my own mother, which is both wonderful and sad at the same time. I told my sister I may have my mother-in-law come out instead, and she was skeptical but mostly because of our own mother's reaction. She was like, mom's going to flip her shit if she finds out, right? As if I'm making the wrong choice because if our mom were to find out, it would cause immense drama. My sister has always been the peacekeeper in the family. She'll call out mom's behavior in private but never actually confront her about it. I get it, it's easier that way, but sometimes I feel like I'm the only one willing to stand up to her. So that's where I'm at now. My mother-in-law is scheduled to arrive a week before my due date. My mom thinks I'm doing this on my own, and I'm terrified she's going to find out somehow and cause a huge scene right when I'm most vulnerable. So Ida for choosing my mother-in-law over my own mother? Edit, I should clarify that the only people who know that my mill is coming to help are my mill, myself, and my husband. I mentioned the idea of my mill coming to my sister because for a brief period, my sister was going to come in my mother's place. However, due to my sister being a labor and delivery nurse in a different state, the likelihood of her being able to be here when I go into labor was slim to none. So I casually mentioned to my sister that my mill might come and will be available when I'm due, to feel out her reaction to me no longer needing her help around that time. Anyways, that's why my sister knows that there's a possibility of my mill coming. I purposely haven't told her my mill is definitely coming to prevent her from slipping up and telling my mom. I know, it's all messy and it's mostly because everything unfolded so quickly. I'm trying to keep the peace but also do what's best for me and the baby. This pregnancy has been stressful enough without all this family drama. I've been having trouble sleeping, my blood pressure is slightly elevated, which my doctor is monitoring, and I just want to focus on having a healthy baby instead of dealing with family politics. Another edit because people keep asking. Yes, I've tried talking to my mom about this stuff before. This isn't the first time she's made things about herself. When I got married 3 years ago, she threw a fit about the bridesmaid dresses because she didn't like the color I picked. When I got my first real job after college, she told everyone it was because she encouraged me to apply. It's always been like this. She wasn't always this way though. When I was younger, she was actually a really good mom in many ways. She helped me with school projects, came to all my soccer games, taught me how to cook. Something changed when I went to college, like she couldn't handle me becoming independent. My dad just goes along with whatever she says to avoid conflict, which doesn't help. Also, my husband and I are fine. Some of you are reading way too much into this. He's upset he can't be here but we're handling it the best we can. Military life sucks sometimes but we knew what we were signing up for. We video chat almost every day when he has access to communications, and he's been incredibly supportive from afar. This is actually his 3rd deployment, so we've gotten somewhat used to being apart, though obviously this time is different with the baby coming. Final edit, I can't respond to everyone but I'm reading all your comments. A lot of you are saying I'm NTA and I appreciate that. Some of you are saying I'm the asshole for not being direct with my mom, and yeah, maybe you're right. But those of you who grew up with narcissistic parents know it's not that simple. When you've spent your whole life tiptoeing around someone's feelings, it's hard to suddenly be confrontational. I'll try to update if anything major happens, but the baby's due in a few weeks so I might be a bit busy lol. Thanks for all the feedback, it's actually been really helpful to get outside perspectives on this. Update 1, can't believe I'm actually updating this. I didn't think anyone would care about my family drama but a bunch of people messaged me asking for an update so here goes. Also, thanks for all the awards on my original post. That was unexpected. After 2 weeks of no contact, I finally spoke with my mom. I had been ignoring most of her texts and calls because I just needed some space to figure out how I felt about everything. She finally left me a voicemail that sounded genuinely worried, so I decided it was time to have a real conversation. I revealed that I had been distant due to me having to process my feelings. I told her that I found it very hurtful that me asking for help was spun into requiring her to be my live-in maid during my postpartum period. I had also explained that I hadn't been updating her or my dad on the pregnancy due to their lack of interest/support. She tried to interrupt me several times with excuses, but for once I stood my ground and finished what I needed to say. I think she was shocked that I wasn't backing down like I usually do. There was this awkward silence after I finished speaking, like she was waiting for me to apologize or something, but I just waited for her response. During this conversation I learned that when I had first asked her for help, she for some reason interpreted this as me saying I did not want her there. She kept repeating over and over, "Well, you had made up your mind that you didn't want me there when you were talking to me about the things you needed." So I stopped her and I was like, "Make this make sense. Why the hell would I have it in my mind that I'm paying for your ticket to come over here, come up with a list of ways I can/want to be helped, work up the courage to have that conversation with you, and have that talk? Why would I go through all of that? I'm not a teenager, I have no interest in playing mind games." She didn't have a real response to that other than, "Okay." Mystery solved as to where all of that stemmed from. I think in her mind, me setting any kind of boundaries or expectations was equivalent to me not wanting her here at all. Which is ridiculous, but at least I understand her logic now, even if it's flawed. As for lack of interest/support, that quite literally stemmed from their reactions, or lack thereof, to the news of me being pregnant and any updates regarding the pregnancy such as the name, gender, and appointment updates. When we first told them I was pregnant, their reaction was basically "That's nice," and then my dad immediately changed the subject to some home renovation they were doing. No excitement, no questions about how I was feeling, nothing. Any information that was revealed to both my mom or dad after that, I would get a very mild, cool or response along those lines. When I told them we were having a boy, my mom just said "That's nice" and then started talking about my cousin's new job. When I sent them the 20-week ultrasound picture, my dad just replied with a thumbs up emoji. I stopped sending updates after that because it just hurt too much to be met with such indifference. When I addressed this today, my mom asked, "Well, how do you want us to react?" I responded with, "I shouldn't have to tell my parents how to show interest or excitement over a new grandchild." She seemed genuinely confused, like it hadn't even occurred to her that her reactions had been hurtful. That's the part that gets me, she doesn't even realize how her behavior affects others. She did eventually say she was sorry if she hurt my feelings, but it was one of those "I'm sorry you feel that way" apologies that doesn't actually acknowledge any wrongdoing. Still, it was something, I guess. While it may seem like this conversation didn't quite go well because there was no real promise of solution/change, it was extremely healing for me. I prefaced the talk with, "I am not expecting anything to change. I'm letting you know the reasons I have been distant. I have already thought about this, and I have already processed these feelings. I need to put this out there so that way it doesn't build and I don't end up resentful. My mother-in-law is still coming to help after the birth. I haven't told my mom this and I probably won't. I'm due in about a week and a half, and I'm honestly so relieved that I'll have someone supportive here instead of dealing with my mom's bullshit on top of recovering from childbirth and taking care of a newborn." My mother-in-law arrived yesterday and has already been amazing. She brought groceries with her, made dinner last night, and has been helping me finish setting up the nursery. She's staying in our guest room and already told me that once the baby comes, she'll handle the cooking and cleaning so I can focus on recovery and bonding with the baby. She hasn't once made me feel like I'm imposing or like her help comes with strings attached. I had a doctor's appointment today and apparently I'm already 1 centimeter dilated, so things might be happening sooner rather than later. It's getting real and I'm equal parts excited and terrified. My husband and I video chatted last night and he got emotional seeing the nursery all set up. It's hard that he's missing this, but I'm grateful for technology that at least lets him be somewhat involved from a distance. Thanks for all the people who provided input on my initial post. The validation really helped me feel confident in my decision. I might update again after the baby comes, but who knows? Life's about to get pretty hectic. #update 2. Well, this is an update I didn't think would actually happen, but here we are. Just a warning, I am raging internally so this may not be written well. I'm typing this at 3 a.m. while feeding the baby, so sorry for any typos or if I ramble. Sleep deprivation is no joke. First and foremost, the birth went well, if you consider 26 hours of labor well. Baby boy is healthy and perfect though, so I can't complain too much. He was born 2 weeks ago, weighing 7 pounds 8 ounces. Labor was nothing like I expected, longer, more painful. My mother-in-law was a rock star throughout the whole thing. She stayed at the hospital with me the entire time, held my hand through contractions, talked for me with the nurses when I was too exhausted to speak for myself, and even remembered to take photos of those first precious moments that I can share with my husband. My mill was incredibly supportive and helpful throughout everything, not just the birth itself. The first week home was a blur of diaper changes, feeding attempts, breastfeeding is way harder than anyone tells you, and trying to figure out this tiny human's needs. My mill cooked every meal, did all the laundry, and would take the baby for an hour or two between feedings so I could shower or nap. She never once made me feel like I was doing anything wrong or that I should be bouncing back faster. She shared stories about when she had her kids without making it seem like her experience was the only right way to do things. The months leading up to me giving birth, the relationship I had with my mother was very surface level. I did not reach out as frequently as I used to. Things got a bit tense about a week prior to me giving birth due to other family stuff I won't get into. Basically, my mom got into an argument with my aunt, her sister, and somehow expected me to take her side even though I wasn't involved at all. When I refused to get in the middle of it, she gave me the silent treatment for a few days. My mother did not call or text me the 2 weeks leading up to my due date. Not a single "how are you feeling?" or anything I can do? Nothing. Honestly, the icing on the cake was my father asking me if I was having a boy or a girl. My husband and I told both of them before. Like, "Are you serious right now? I've been pregnant for 9 months, we told you the gender 6 months ago, and you can't even remember that basic detail about your first grandchild?" The distance led me to telling them I had my son the next afternoon after he was born rather than immediately. My mill suggested I take that time to rest and bond with the baby without the stress of dealing with my parents' reaction, or lack thereof, and she was absolutely right. That decision brought me a lot of peace, which probably says a lot about our relationship. When I did call to tell them, my mom's first question wasn't about the baby or how I was doing, but "Why didn't you call us sooner?" I gave some excuse about being exhausted and my phone dying, which she seemed to accept. She asked a few questions about the baby but didn't seem particularly interested in the answers. The call lasted maybe 5 minutes. My dad didn't even get on the phone. They didn't visit right away, which was fine with me. They sent a gift card and some baby clothes that were the wrong size and season. My mill stayed for 3 weeks, and by the time she left, I felt capable and confident in caring for my son on my own. My husband has been able to video chat almost daily to see the baby, and while it's not the same as having him here, we're making it work. Fast forward to a couple weeks ago. I called my mother to chat, not about anything serious. Just a quick check-in. The phone call threw me off because she apologized to me. She said, "I miss you. Our relationship is different, and I don't know how to fix it because I feel like I don't have the opportunity to. I should have handled the talk a lot differently. I want to come and help you." I was shocked. My mom rarely apologizes for anything, so this seemed significant. She sounded genuinely remorseful, and part of me wanted to believe she had finally realized how her behavior had affected me. She went on about how she regretted not being more supportive during my pregnancy and how she wanted a chance to be there for me and meet her grandson. I don't know if it was my postpartum hormones, being overwhelmed with caring for a newborn alone, or just a deep-seated desire to have a good relationship with my mother, but against my better judgment I offered to have her come for 6 days. Honestly, my first red flag should have been her not fighting back and saying she could pay her own way when I mentioned booking flights. But oh well. I figured this visit would benefit me in the sense that I could try to be less resentful, and I could at least say that I tried. Plus, I thought maybe seeing the baby in person would bring out a more nurturing side of her that had been absent so far. She arrived Saturday night, and the first full day was Sunday. I spent a lot of that day feeling agitated because the second I would lay my son down in his bassinet to go do something she would pick him up. Even if he was sleeping peacefully, she would disturb him to hold him. When I'd ask her to please let him sleep, she'd say things like, "But grandma needs her cuddles or he doesn't mind, do you baby?" It became quite clear to me that my decision to have my mill come and help me during the first weeks was the correct one. That evening I told her that she cannot pick my son up every single time he cries because once she leaves, I physically am not able to do that for him. I explained that sometimes I need to let him fuss for a minute while I finish using the bathroom or grab a glass of water, and that by rushing to pick him up instantly every time, she was creating habits that I couldn't maintain as a solo parent. I told her that I'm essentially a single parent until the foreseeable future, and I need to establish routines that work for our situation. She sheepishly apologized and said she wasn't thinking about after she wasn't going to be here. But the behavior didn't really change. She would wait until I was in the shower or busy in another room, then pick him up anyway. I would come back to find her holding him when I'd specifically asked her not to disturb him if he was content. But this stay has just been a shit show from start to finish. I didn't trust her watching him alone for long periods because I caught her starting to fall asleep on the couch while holding my baby literally 30 minutes after she told me I could go nap. Thank God I was in the kitchen prepping dinner and I caught it. When I mentioned it to her, She got defensive and said she wasn't really asleep and that I was being overprotective. Sorry for not wanting my 2-week-old to be dropped or suffocated because his grandmother fell asleep holding him. She did not offer to make meals even once during her stay. Every day I would ask what she wanted for dinner, and she would just say whatever you're making is fine without offering to help. One night I was so exhausted that I suggested ordering pizza, and she made a comment about how that wasn't healthy for a breastfeeding mom. But did she offer to cook something nutritious instead? Nope. She made a comment about eating dinner at 8 p.m. because she isn't used to it like me. I had to tell her that eating dinner at 8 p.m. is not a choice or a preference I have. I told her she didn't offer to step in and start dinner while I was doing laundry, FaceTiming my husband in between his watches, or nursing my son. The day literally revolves around the baby's needs, not some arbitrary dinner schedule. What was she doing while I was juggling all of this? Basking in the Florida sun on my patio with the dogs while scrolling on her damn phone. When I finally confronted her about her lack of help, she said she didn't want to overstep and didn't know what I wanted her to do. But when I gave her specific tasks like, could you please fold that basket of laundry while I feed the baby? She would do it half-heartedly while sighing loudly, as if I was imposing on her vacation. The real reason I'm rage typing all of this isn't even because of her lack of help. It is her lack of emotional support. Today I was told that my husband's deployment is extended by another 2 months. He was supposed to be home when our son is around 4 months old, but now it will be closer to 6 months. When I got the news, I was devastated. I was sobbing. What did my mother do? She said, "I'm sorry." That's it. I haven't gotten a single hug from her during this entire visit, not even when I received this heartbreaking news. I got this news 4 hours ago. What I did get was her telling me to go take a shower, which was really code for go shower so I can cuddle the baby because you won't be able to. She couldn't even pretend to care about how I was feeling for 5 minutes before making it about what she wanted again. When I came back from my shower, which I took quickly because I didn't actually trust her with the baby for long, she was showing him pictures of herself on her phone and telling him that's your favorite grandma. I wanted to scream. My Mill has been more of a mother to me in the past months than my own mom has been in years, but sure, she's the favorite grandma. I feel so angry, disappointed, and ashamed that I spent money on her coming out here. The flights weren't cheap, and with a new baby, we're trying to be careful with our finances since I'm on unpaid maternity leave. I guess it's not a total loss because this stay has helped me not put on rose-colored glasses like I normally do when it comes to her. 2 more days and she's gone. Then it's back to me and the baby on our own until my husband can come home. I don't even know what I'm asking for at this point. I guess I just needed to vent. I feel like I'm mourning the mother I wish I had while dealing with the mother I actually have. It's exhausting. My husband thinks I should limit contact again after this visit, and I'm starting to think he's right. Sorry for the novel. Like I said, it's 3 a.m. and apparently that's when all my feelings come out. If there's anything I've learned from this whole experience, it's that family isn't just about blood relation. My Mill showed me what motherly support actually looks like, and I'm grateful for that even if it makes me sad that I don't get it from my own mother.